Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the show. This is the Collaborators Unite podcast. Chuck Anderson here, your host, and this is the show where we serve big impact experts. And that's you if you're on a mission to make a big positive impact in the lives of your clients, possibly even the community and the world, depending on the size of your mission. This is what we know about you from all the surveys and the conversations that we've had, is that you value impact. How do you make an impact with what you do? And, in order to do that, we're going to have different challenges along the way, and we need a good strategy. And today's guest is a business strategist who has a lot of experience helping businesses like you with a good strategy that will help you to achieve your mission. So today I have Kuhn here with me today, and we're going to talk all things strategy, marketing, sales, growth, whatever else we think of to say. So, Jean, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me here today. I was listening. Yeah, well, I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm glad you're here too. And we've had a couple of good conversations leading up to this. So I can already tell this is going to be a fun day. And, I did my light introduction of you. So I'm going to just start by having you share a little bit more about the audience, about what it is that you do to help businesses and how, and what led you to doing this work.
What led me to doing this work is when I had my first baby, I decided I was never going to let somebody control my time. So when that nurse put that first baby in my arms, I knew I was not going back to a job I hated, right? So that was 41 years ago, and I have managed to stay or be self-employed throughout that entire time without having to get a job. So that's part of it. But then what really got me into where I'm at now is, I don't know, it's been over 25 years ago, I bought my very first bankrupt business. Have you ever bought one, Chuck? A bankrupt business?
Not a bankrupt business. Yeah. I've been part of a few acquisitions and a few exits, never bankrupt.
Yeah, it's hard. Don't do it. Mm-hmm. I don't recommend it. However, we were able to turn that around within 12 months, add $100,000 to the bottom line. And then 4 years later, we bought a second bankrupt business. They were both chocolate franchise stores.
Okay. Yeah. So did you already have experience in that industry, or did you get into it for the very first time by buying those businesses?
Yeah, not at all. Not at all. As a matter of fact, 2 weeks into that first store, I also owned another brick and mortar like 30 minutes away, right? That I worked from 10 to 4. It was a dance studio for kids. And nor am I a dancer, right? I'm just like somebody who thinks I can do everything. But I bought that store 2 weeks in. I'm sitting in the kitchen on an upside down milk crate, sobbing. Nobody was coming in the door to see me. I had all the time in the world to do it because it was bankrupt and nobody was walking in the door. And after about 2 weeks, I'm like, maybe you should, after I had my little pity party, I thought, okay, I've got to get up off this milk crate and get my butt to work. And that's exactly what I did because I had a plan when I bought it, right? It was not to sit there and not do anything going forward because I literally was thinking my kids we took a loan out on the house we had just built. We paid it off, and I was afraid that we're going to lose our home, and then my kids aren't going to be able to go to college if they wanted. And it was just a big mind game I was spewing to myself for 20 minutes or 2 hours. I don't know how long.
Mm-hmm. So you didn't just buy the business on a whim. You did have a plan. And
oh, no, I bought it on a whim, Chuck.
Oh, you did? Okay, good.
Fool you, yes. It was a friend who had one of these franchises, and she would invite me in during the holidays to help her, and it seemed like it was going to be fun. And I'm all about the fun. And those that first year was anything but fun, but I made it fun and turned everything around because if it's not fun, I don't want to do it. So, yeah. So
tell us a little bit about this turnaround, because it sounds like that's probably the origin story of a lot of the work that you're doing with clients now in their businesses. If that's true, please correct me if I'm wrong, but
No, you're 100%.
What was that journey?
You're 100% right. That is kind of my origin story, that turning around 2 bankrupt businesses with no money. I had no marketing money. I had no list because nobody had a list back in 2002. And we didn't have websites for either store, right? So yeah, it was challenging compared to now, but I learned so much, right? If I just relaxed and had fun doing it, made it fun for myself, fun for my employees, and fun for the customer, why wouldn't they come back? So I created so I'll tell you my first really great marketing story. On our first anniversary of owning that store, I created a little game. Do you ever go, I don't know, in Canada, do they have like little kids carnivals at school? Like, right? And so
Yeah.
sometimes you'll see the one where you throw the fishing pole over the blanket that's hung up there and there'll be a prize on it when the kids get it back.
Hmm.
So I took that idea and I created something called the Anniversary Ducky Party. So I bought a bunch of those little ducks and I put them in first water, but they went butt up. So on the butt, I wrote numbers. So everybody, if you spent, I knew our ticket price was $8. Everybody came in. That was our average ticket sale. I was looking for 12. So when you came in and you spent $12, you could pick a ducky that now is sitting in a tub of blue sugar. So they're not right. And so you'd pick it up, find out what the number was. And there was a prize chart. You know, it could be a chocolate dipped marshmallow or a caramel apple or a little box of chocolates or whatever, right? So I got a call after that from the franchise and they're like, what are you doing? Right? We've never had anybody have that size of a promotion before in the store. What are you doing? And that I was getting calls like that all the time because I was marketing differently and that's what I teach my clients. You have to be different if you're going to stand out in a crowd. Right? If you're going to stand in a tub of blue sugar, you better be different. So
Yeah.
that was just one of the things I did.
Yeah. Amazing. And one might assume that you buy a franchise because they have their marketing kind of figured out. And so you
Yeah.
had to be innovative and turn this thing.
Well, I also bought it from another franchisee who was obviously it was bankrupt, so they weren't running it really well. Who kind of misled me, and I said, well, we haven't even applied for to the franchise yet. And he's like, if you don't buy it on this day for this much money, I'm closing the store. And I'm like, okay, let me write you a check. Right. And we bought that store. The franchise did not know we were part of the system for at least 3 months. And when they finally accepted us, right, I was already 3 months in running the store. So yeah, I wrote a book about that too. It's called F-Ups, Franchisee Screw-Ups.
Wow. Yeah, and I've heard stories like that before, right? Because
Yeah.
again, we buy into franchises because we assume they have a system for all of that
Yeah.
that works. But you still have to bring your creativity to it. You did that.
Yeah.
And that's a really cool origin story, to be honest. Like I've been part of a few acquisitions, a few exits, some really great, some not so great. So, I can relate to those parts of it for sure.
Yeah.
That as an origin story kind of led you into what you're doing now. What are you hearing from people who are reaching out to you for help in terms of the help that they need and maybe that aligns with the help you're able to provide? What does that look like? What are you hearing and what do you end up doing for them? Right?
Yeah, I'm really hearing that I'm not making enough money, right? For as hard as I'm working, I'm not making enough money. I'm hearing that I can't get clients, right? Clients are like far and few between. And these are all of things I had to overcome when I decided to make this my business, right? Can I tell you another story?
Yes, please.
Okay, so when I first bought that store, that was 4 years later. When I bought that second store, I was trying to figure out like how am I going to I need to do this bigger and better, right? And I started reaching out to my fellow franchisees in the area. And I said, what if we kind of co-op on some marketing because company will pay for it if we co-op on it or they'll pay for some of it and we can make money. So I brought some franchisees over to my house. The following year, people are like, we want to be in. If you ever do this again, we want to be in. So I started holding conferences for my fellow franchisees from all over the country. And how I was rewarded for that from the franchisor was I got a royalty audit every year because they told me to stop. And I knew I needed those other franchisees as much as they needed me. Because I don't know about you in business, but when I'm in business, I've got to have somebody else at my level that I can talk to, right? I might not have answered the question I'm thinking that you just asked, but it made me think of that story, right? In business, we all need other people that we can talk to. And sometimes you're talking to the wrong people because they're worse off than you are.
Yeah, it does answer the question, because what we want to know is, what is the struggle that people are experiencing in their businesses that you're helping them with? I mean, your creative marketing and all, I mean, it really lends itself to, you call yourself a strategist. I mean,
Yeah.
that's all part of the strategy.
Right.
And that creativity that gets brought to it. And yeah, certainly not having enough people to talk to is a big problem.
Exactly.
I was on a call last week with somebody, and I said, how, they were complaining that they didn't have enough clients. And I said, well, how do you sell? And they sell through a consultation call. And I said, well, how many consultation calls have you done in the last 90 days? And it was less than 5.
Yeah.
Therein lies the problem, right?
Exactly. So how did you tell them to fix that? And then I'll tell you how I fixed that.
Right. Yeah. So we focus on the lead generation part of it and say, so you don't have a broken offer. You haven't made your offer to enough people yet. So you don't need a new offer. You don't need a new product. You don't need that's not broken. What you need is more people to talk to make your offer to. So we do that a lot through affiliates and partnerships and events and all that kind of stuff. So we usually recommend something like that so that they can start to fill their calendar with appointments of people who align with what it is that they do.
And the way I do that is, of course, you need exactly what you said. You need more leads, right? But the way I teach my people to get leads, the way I get leads is I go out and I speak, right? And if I'm telling, I have a lot of funny stories, but if I'm going out and I'm telling and I'm edutaining the audience there, right? It's so much easier to bring them in for a consultation. Like I don't have to even work at that. I'm going to close half the room who want to have a call with me, right? After that. And then I can make that offer. But that's how I pick up all the extra leads that I'm looking for, because to me, it's the fastest path to cash.
Well, you have to be visible. And,
Yes.
one of the things, standing on stage, delivering a presentation is a great way to be visible. We can host virtual events. You can host your own. You can speak on other people's events. You can be on podcasts. You can host your own podcasts. There are so many ways to use that.
Yeah.
No better way, I feel, than speaking to someone else's audience, because now you're expanding outside of but I 100% agree. In fact, it's what started me off on this journey almost 30 years ago, getting to speak on the Rich Dad Poor Dad stage.
Oh, that's
when
cool.
when Kiyosaki was first I think he was only 3 books in. Now he's like, I don't know, 30 books in. So, but that was a long time ago. But that's getting on stages, speaking to other people's audiences, huge for that. So, yeah. So visibility, obviously, having enough people to talk to. What are some of the mistakes that you see that your future clients are making that you help them to overcome and put better solutions in place?
There's a couple, right? I think the first one is they're afraid to invest in their business, right? So they just keep trying to duct tape it together, right? They're like hodgepodge here, and you're trying something over here, and then somebody told you that they got a client from Facebook sending them a direct message without ever knowing them. So amazing, that must work, right? So they do that, right? So they're doing all of the wrong things because that's what they are remember when I said about listening to the people who are, I tell my people, if they're not making more money than you should not be listening to them, right? Because they're in the same boat as you, if not even a smaller boat. So that's one way is, do you ever you're talking and all of a sudden it's like, boom, gone, right? What was the question?
It happens. Mistakes that your future clients are making. So when you hear or see them making these mistakes.
Yeah. So investing in their business before they lose all their money, that's one. They should be doing that, right? Hire somebody. Especially if you're over 50, right? Hire somebody right away so you're not wasting all of your money. I can't even begin to tell you how many hundreds of thousands of dollars I wasted trying to figure it all out on my own. It's not cool, right? Another thing that I see is not wanting to speak, right? I've seen how fast that happened for me. When I started speaking, it literally took my business from $300 a month to $10,000 a month while I was owning and running 2 brick and mortar businesses, right? It took it to there within 18 months, right? Which seems like a long time, but not if you factor in that I'm managing 2 bankrupt business or 2 big brick and mortar businesses. So I do think that is a piece too, is trying to find a way for them to be able to speak. And I think another thing is this is my opinion, so don't shoot the messenger. I am the messenger. I am the creator, so you can shoot me. When they are they feel like they can do, since COVID, they feel like they can do business all over the world, right? And they can't even sell anything in their own town. Why do you care about the rest of the world if you can't sell something in your own local community, right? Those are the people who will support you and help you if you just get out and meet them. But it's like, no, I would rather do it virtually. Can you tell that I'm not mostly I'm not a virtual fan of virtual events, right?
Which is ironic because we're doing this virtually right now,
Well,
but
podcasts are different, I think,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Podcasts are not, they were here before COVID, right?
Yes, they were.
Yes. But
Yes.
since that, when people, that's how they think they have to do business. And you know what? They go to networking groups and everybody's there because they think they can do business all over the world instead of going out and speaking locally to a local chamber or a women's group or whatever, and selling yourself into selling them into a conversation with you. Yeah, it's kind of crazy to me that that I think is a big mistake.
Yeah, that's a really good one. And I don't hear that one very
I'm
often.
sure.
And because, well, like you said, since 2020, everything has really gone in a virtual direction. Zoom has made it easier than ever before to just schedule a call, get on a virtual meeting, and so while we do have international clients, I agree with you. In fact, I mentioned speaking on Rich Dad stages. That would never have happened if I hadn't gone to a local networking meeting where somebody involved was speaking and got their attention when it was my turn to introduce myself. So yeah, you got to get out there in the community. You got to get out there and share. And those opportunities still exist, right?
100%, because those are the people who understand that when you're with people, and look, we've had a couple conversations and they have been nice and polite and everything, but there's really no way that you and I in a 30-minute podcast or a 20-minute podcast or a 20-minute consultation call are going to really connect, right? But when you're with somebody in a room, or if you're networking in person and you're seeing them week after week, those connections are formed, right? And you can't take that piece away from in person. I even have some clients who are just crazy not wanting to go beyond their screen here, right? They just want to work it all from their screen, and they're struggling because of it, because they live in a bigger city and they're not willing to just go out and meet people anymore. We're so afraid to meet people anymore.
Right? Yeah. And I don't think we have to be afraid of that, but I think you're right. Like Zoom has that it's the introvert's dream, really.
Really?
You can, if you're uncomfortable, you can you can disconnect from any group meeting you want at any time. And so,
Yeah.
but when you're in a room, I've hosted seminars, I've spoken at other people's seminars. There is a captive audience. With virtual, if they don't like what you're saying, they can disconnect at any time.
Exactly.
But when you're speaking in a room, even if they don't like what you're saying, they're not walking out the door. They're way too polite for that. They're way too nervous of looking bad. So they're going to sit there and receive the rest of your message. You still have a chance to change their minds.
Exactly.
Right. And so,
Right.
yeah, real connection.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Real connections. But listen, I do all my client calls on Zoom, right? And I may not have met them, but you know what? Within 4 months, I will meet them because I hold my business retreats for my clients. It's a fulfillment event. I hold that in person. Because I want to know people. I'm not just in this for the money. I'm in it for the relationships as well. And I don't believe you can make those great relationships virtually all the time.
Yeah, it's a great idea. And how often do you hold your retreats? Are they 3 times a year, or
Yeah, I do
you said every 4 months?
Yeah, about 3 times a year. I take my clients on a retreat, which is what I'm kind of talking about these days, is about taking them on experiential transformational retreats. This little elephant is there to remind my clients every time I'm on a call with them on Zoom It's there to remind them that I took them to give 2 elephants in a bath. And the reason we gave the elephants in a bath because I needed them to know, I needed to make the point that the big elephant in their room is them. That's holding them back from their success, right?
Mhm.
So that one just makes me smile. When I saw that at Home Goods, I picked that right up.
That's a very powerful message as well, and such a great way to demonstrate that. I love everything we're saying. I want to talk about the book and before we run out of time, but I got to ask you, like, what are your, just to kind of put a, kind of transition to that. What are the top 3 things that you think are the big needle movers for businesses that are kind of stuck where, we talked about some of the mistakes that they're making and some of the challenges that they're having. What are the top 3 things they should be doing that would kind of direct them so that they're not doing the time wasting things and the ineffective things?
Yeah, I think right now, and I'm not even sure there's 3 right now. One of the things I really believe that people should be doing is getting back into person events. Not saying everything has to be that. I don't see Tony Robbins going back to really big in-person events when he can do that from a big stage that he created, right? I don't see that. But I think if you really want to connect with, you're not Tony Robbins. That's what I'm saying. Not you, but everybody. But
That's okay. I'm okay. I am not Tony Robbins.
okay, you're okay. I'm not Tony Robbins.
I'm inspired by him,
Me
but
too,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Me
yeah,
too.
for sure.
But I do think that getting in person, I think coaching is maybe taking, I hear this all the time right now is like, my coaching business has dropped off. My coaching business has dropped off. I think that they look at AI and they feel like they can create anything that a coach is going to give them. They can create that on AI. And for the marketing, you might be a little bit true about that, right? They're going to create marketing things that everybody else in the world is doing because that's what AI knows. Let me just tell you, they are not marketing themselves the way I teach my people to market themselves. But you know what? You know what? My people still want to do it like everybody else. And it's a continual heartbreak for me because I know if they would listen a little bit more and go out into their community a little bit more, they would have more success. So that's one of them is what I think. But I also think that holding small in-person events is the way to go. And that's exactly what this book is about. And I've really been talking about this a lot lately is all you need to do is put 20 people in a room and I can get you to $100,000 within a year. Right. And I will tell you in the United States, I don't know about Canada. Actually, I think I looked it up and I think it's lower than the United States. Only 12% of female business owners ever hit $100,000. And I think it's less in Canada because I do think I looked that up. But right now, I am, if they would just embrace the idea of holding small events, I make more money from small events. I have a multiple 6-figure business from small events. Right? 23 buyers in a room with maybe 39 people in there and 23 buyers in a room. And I spend 3 days with them. That's a 6-figure payday for me. Multiple, we're pretty close to multiple 6 figures, right? We think we haven't quite hit over 200. But I'll tell you what, with 23 people in a room that I got to connect with all of them to close 150, 60, $80,000, I'm super excited about that. So that's what I'm talking
Yeah,
about now.
I'm with, it's so funny to hear you say that. And in a lot of ways, we've done parallel things. One of my favorite things to do is to do a workshop. I used to say a small workshop with just 20 people in it. And that was the opposite of what my mentor taught me. I was trained by T. Harv Eker. And so,
Right.
it was, so a lot of those events, and you think you need to be that
Right.
because, his events were always 1,000 people plus, and he was
Right.
really good at it. And then I remember struggling to try to aspire to do that. And I realized that if I, do more with less is kind of the mantra that we had. And so when I had 20 people in a room, I could go and have lunch with each one of them. I could have personal conversations, multiple conversations with
Right.
each one of them. When I have 200 people in a room or even 2,000 people in a room, that's not going to happen. And so most of all of that marketing that got those people in the room just walked out the door. You will never see them again.
Exactly. But in a small room, you know their name. If there's only 30 people in the room, you learn their name really fast within a couple hours, right? And I'm not even talking about the way T. Harv and all the gurus do that, where they put them in a room for a low ticket price. And I'm talking about taking your expertise, putting 20 people into a highly focused intensive of whatever you're training them on. You charge a high ticket price. And I'm saying high ticket is probably up to 5,000, maybe $10,000, depending on how long and what you're doing, where you're really making a difference in their business. You're really giving them every single thing they know. You're practicing it. You're role playing it. You've got 19 other people who are focused on learning what you're teaching. And that's what I'm talking about, putting small
Yeah.
people in there. And then you don't have to make an offer at all. They've already paid you up front, right? They've already paid you up front to get there. You don't need to.
Right. So you're not having to make an additional offer while you're there. You're just 100% focused on delivering the value. You called it a fulfillment event earlier. So that really what is.
Oh, well, fulfillment for me is when my clients buy a 12-month package with me.
Uh-huh.
That's what they get as part of that. Is almost like 3 months of, like, we go away, it's intensive training, but it's kind of like a mastermind. But what I'm talking about now is 20 people in a room, teaching them what you're the very best at, so that
Right.
you can create other people who are just as good as you. And then if maybe there are people there that you want to make, this is exactly what I'm doing next month. And if there are people there, let's just say out of that 20, that like 3 of them, I really feel like we would mesh and they would be a great fit for me, I'm only going to make them a private offer. I will pull them aside and make them a private offer. I'm not going to make a big offer to the group. I've already been paid.
Right. Yes. Up front. Yes.
Yeah.
And that makes a lot of sense. Well, and a big believer in that. I've done that myself. I think that's a great advice. I want to talk a little bit about the book and before we run out of time, because I could already tell I could talk to you for a very long time. It's very easy to do. Tell us a little bit about your book. And I think, yeah, and you had mentioned it a couple of times. So
Yeah,
go
I
ahead.
did because the big box of books just came today. So I'm like dying to have a break to get into them. But here's my galley copy. So it's called Move the Room. The art of designing experiences so compelling, breakthroughs become inevitable and profits become scalable. And it's about just what I was just talking about, right? Holding small events, putting the right people in the room, right? You don't want to put the wrong people in the room because you've got things you want to get done, right? Whether it's maybe if you're a sales coach, you want to make sure that they understand about, you don't want somebody who's just not doing the work in the room, I guess is the best way I want to say that, right? And that's why you charge the right price for that too. You want to charge a price when they come, they're not screwing around. They're there to get things done and learn something that's going to help them make more money than they ever paid you. So
Amazing.
that's what I will say that Kevin Harrington wrote the foreword to my book,
Oh, nice.
Shark Tank. Yeah. So
Yeah, he's a good guy.
he's a
I
good,
met him at a conference a few years ago, and he's very, very approachable, very easy to talk
yeah.
to. So yeah,
Yeah.
love it.
So I met him last year at the book conference.
Oh, great. Well, for those of you who are interested in that book, I have put a link to Gene's book right beneath this video, so you can go check that out and click the link. And if you're listening to this on an audio podcast, the link is there as well. Just open up your phone and it's all right there. And so that's great. So I highly encourage you to go check out that book. But I want to give you a better option to connect with Gene. And I know, Gene, you have a free gift that would be a really great place to start, that would get them into your world. They would learn more from you. And so tell everybody about that. And we'll put a link there to that as well.
So it's called 5 no-cost, low-cost marketing strategies that make your business more appealing. And what that's from is how I turned around 2 bankrupt businesses. I've got 5 different strategies, and the 5, I think, or 6 different strategies in there with a story. Hopefully it's a funny story for each and every one of them. And it's the way you get that is just go to Gene's free gift, Gene, Jeans, freegift.com.
Nice, easy domain name to remember. But even still, I'm going to put that beneath the video as well.
Awesome.
And in the podcast show notes, make it very easy. Because if you don't don't remember, the link is right there. You just have to click it. And, it's free. So I highly encourage you to do that. Learn something, especially if what Jean and I have been talking about today has resonated with you. So Jean, thank you so much. I know we just scratched the surface on all the things we could talk about, but I loved getting to know more about you and your business. I love that the way you're using retreats. It's very similar to how I use retreats, or it sounds like it anyways. And I believe every word you're saying. So that's amazing. Definitely have you back and speak on some of our stages. I have many opportunities for you to come back and engage. So we'll have you back. Before I let you go and we sign off, I just want to ask you if there's any final piece of advice or words of wisdom you want to leave our audience with here today.
2 things. Number 1, I have a passport. I've never been to Canada. So if you do an event up there, I'm interested.
I'll put you on the list.
And yeah, I think the one thing I really like to always leave with is something Zig Ziglar taught me years ago. He'd come to Chicago, do a whole day by himself. But the one big thing I took away from Zig Ziglar was you can have everything you want in life if you just help enough other people get what they want. And I literally live my life that way. And I have since I met Zig 30 some years ago.
I remember that was one of the takeaways I got from one of the very first Zig Ziglar books that I read, and that was probably what he's most known for is that quote. I love it.
Yeah.
Beautiful words to end this episode by Jean. Thank you. You are amazing. Yeah, this has been fun. And I know we've only scratched the surface, but what you're doing can help so many people on their journey to make a bigger impact. And that's what we're trying to do. And so we're excited to have you come back and maybe speak at some of our events. And
Awesome. I'd love that.
And we'll do something like that. And to our audience, I want to thank you as well. If you're listening to my voice right now, that means you resonated with what Jean and I were talking about here today. So a couple things. One is I'd like you to click the link beneath this video and go get Jean's free gift. That is an easy, simple step that you can do today. It connects you with information that could be the breakthrough that you need or the answer you've been looking for. That's going to lead to a breakthrough in your business, because I know you want to make a bigger impact. I know you're maybe even a little frustrated with where you're at and there's some other level you want to get to. And so I highly encourage you to learn from others, collaborate and partner with others, learn and whatever collaboration means to you. Could mean hire a coach, could be joint venturing with someone, whatever that means. You could be one collaboration away from that breakthrough. And I'll leave you with this, and that is really the only way to fail in business is to quit. And believe that every problem has a solution. So always look for someone who can help you with that solution. Keep moving forward, and we will see you on the next one. Thank you.